13 years ago, Montgomery County was one of the first jurisdictions in the nation to charge a tax on single-use plastic and paper bags for the purpose of cleaning up the Chesapeake Bay watershed. After an inspector general report determined that lax enforcement of the bag tax was costing the county lost revenue, Councilmember Kate Stewart came up with a novel idea. Well, why don't we just ban the use of plastic bags altogether? And while we're at it, let's double the tax. Nancy, you were on the council when the initial bag tax was being passed. And it seems that the tax, kind of had its, solved its intended consequence, which was to reduce litter pollution in the watershed. This proposal by Ms. Stewart looks like it's a solution in search of a problem. What's going on?
I did a little bit of research, and I was traveling recently and was asked if I wanted a bag, and I was told it was 10 cents to get a bag. So I think that what Kate Stewart is proposing is bringing Montgomery County in line with a number of other jurisdictions. She's in the press release that accompanied this. They identified, I think, 9 other jurisdictions in Maryland. I know it's the rule elsewhere in the world in many places. So I don't know that it's just different from what we're used to. I do notice when I go to the supermarket, most people come in clutching some kind of carry container. And that was the intent of the legislation to begin with, to get people to not use plastic bags. The issue then, and I presume it will be the issue now, will be what do you do with takeout stuff? That was always the issue in terms of cost burden to businesses and difficulty in dealing with consumer choice and the like. But otherwise, this isn't really such a big deal as it was last time around.
Well, I will say that one of our former panelists, Susan Heltemus, she gave me a reusable bag which said, "My reusable bag makes me better than you." And I always thought that was hilarious because, I have nothing against the reusable bags. But Laurie, this isn't a trivial issue. The proposal is a regressive tax that doubles the cost for one-time bag use, and people do use one-time bags. That impacts the poor and indigent portions of our community who can't afford a $5 reusable bag. They don't carry bundles of bag with them on the bus, or when they're going to the grocery store. And if they're walking home, they don't want those paper bags that seem to rip and tear and are unreliable. So what's going on here?
Yeah, isn't it interesting that the OIG says that the current policy isn't working well, and so they double up on the policy to make it work doubly worse. And it is, you need to look at the economics of this thing, because every plastic bag and grocery bag costs about 1 cent. But if you use, paper bag, it's a lot more than that. And I saw that there's a Danish study that says that if you have a reusable bag, you have to use it 52 times to make the carbon imprint smaller than a single-use plastic bag. 52 times. So how many of us use our bags? Maybe we do use them more than 52 times, but you gotta buy a pretty expensive bag, and how much of a carbon footprint will that create? You have to look at the economics and what it's doing to all of our middle class, lower income folks. And people who take public transportation. How do you expect them to be carrying 5 or 6 bags with them as they go to the grocery store? And then, it's just not practical. So you got to look at that as well. There's an NIH study that was fairly recent that recommends voluntary incentives instead of banning plastic bags, because technology is now catching up. And there are a lot of plastic bag companies that are now instituting biodegradable type of bags that are really more expensive right now. They're about 10 cents per bag. But if we try to encourage people, not through tax, but through incentives, incentives to companies who use them, maybe give them tax cuts or something like that, that will incentivize companies to use the higher cost, which will create higher demand, which will make those biodegradable bag costs to go down. So we don't need, I think we need to look at, yes, there have been bans in the past, but look at what's happening now. Look at the technology and where it is. It's time for Montgomery County to actually be the forefront of something like this and think of something new instead of copying other ideas that are not working.
So Nancy, I guess the fundamental question really comes back down to is, do the plastic bags that are being out there, are they ending up in our watersheds, and are they still a pollution problem? And if not, why are we making a change?
Guys, I mean, the horse is out of this barn. The decisions was made long ago that this was going to be county policy. What's interesting, frankly, is the revenue stream from this has been, it's not huge, it never was, and it's been pretty constant, which suggests that human behavior probably has been induced to change a tad, but not entirely. It's not perfect, but I'd say the deed is done, folks.